and keep yourself muted. If you are speaking on that, please wait your turn and mute your mic until you absolutely, you're asked to say something or you need to say something, and then we can address that. With that said, we'll get on with today's meeting. At this time, I'll ask if there's anyone attending today's meeting that would like to speak to a subject that is not on today's agenda. They go ahead and do that now. With everyone staying muted, then we'll move on to the agenda status report.
So, Mr. Chair, I do not have any changes to today's standard agenda.
Okay, thank you very much. At this time, we'll move on to the board approval of the meeting minutes for June 26th. They were emailed to you earlier this week. Had you had if I can ask the members if they had a chance to review those, and if so, do they have any comment on those meeting minutes?
That was for the 26th?
Yes, sir.
The only comment I have is a general comment on like number 1C. It identifies Kevin as the person that's suggesting something. I would think that we wouldn't want to identify members unless there's a disagreement between members.
Jim, my comment there was that I would be willing to go over to the county office and assist the staff. That's what I meant with that.
Okay.
If they had any questions or clarifications, which is something I've done in the past, but yeah, it just as a way of helping the public and the staff members.
Oh, I see now that I read it a little more carefully. Okay.
Does anyone else have any comment on those meeting minutes?
I do not.
Okay, and with that silence, I'll go ahead and ask that we approve the meeting minutes for June 26th. All in favor, say
So
aye.
moved.
Second,
Aye.
move, yes.
Okay, I like them, so they're approved. Moving on to the consent agenda, as there's nothing on that, we'll move on to the INBAR members informational briefing. Has anybody had any contacts with their supervisors, members of the audience, applicants, or county staff?
I did. This is involving Keysite 4, the commercial project, 3-building commercial project on Clark and Stillwell. The applicant, who I was the landscape architect for, called and asked about how to process a change. And I told him what the process is for modified final and instructed him to contact his original planner for it, and left it at that.
All right, thank you. Okay, if there's no other comment, moving on to item number 6, conflict of interest biannual review.
You know, Mr. Chair, we're having a little bit of feedback issues. Oh, never mind. It resolved itself. So it looks like I didn't actually put these items into the folder. They're pretty short items to read. Let's see. Let me throw them in there right now.
Was this all stuff that was sent out a couple weeks ago?
No, I think this is new documentation and it's not letting me add it in there. Okay, so this is just that thing that you guys do every other year, where you have to, the chair has to sign it and blah, 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 blah. I think it's the conflict of interest.
Right.
And if you guys wanted any changes to it. So here's that conflict of interest that you guys have, been using since the beginning of time. And I don't believe anything's changed, but I can go ahead and forward it to you guys so that you guys can take a look if you'd like.
So why don't you go ahead and do that, and then well, I'll review it and then send it back to you, sign.
Okay, sounds great. I will do that.
Thank you. Moving on to staff update.
Holly, do you guys have any update for us?
Oh, sorry. No, I do not at this time. Thank you. Thank you for your patience. I missed my cue there.
All right. Well, we'll move on to the first agenda on today's list, the Arctic Coal Project, BAR 20-00045. At this time, I'd like to ask the applicant to go ahead and introduce themselves for the record. And we will, after that, we will move through some of the comments that the BAR has made previously. And then you give us your responses to those comments.
All right, thank you. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Can you hear me?
Yes, David.
Yes, can you hear me?
10-4.
Okay, thanks. This is David Swink with Urban Planning Concepts, the agent for the project. I also have online Bill Langley and Clayton Dragoo from Fisher Construction Group, who are the project architects on the project and who represented it at our last meeting that we held back in April. And we did receive some comments from the BAR. So what we've done is we've done a resubmittal back to the county. We're finishing up our completeness determination on it. And so we did, as part of that resubmittal, had responded to the MBAR comments. So what I'd like to do is turn this over to Bill so he can discuss what we did in terms of the response. So Bill, if you'd like to take this over.
You know what, Mr. Chair, I think that we're gonna have to move on to item number 2 because I still don't see Bobby.
Still don't see Bobby on there.
Yeah, I still don't.
Oh, we don't have a quorum yet?
No, I don't believe so. Unless Bobby is this 360-7575-681 number.
No, I believe that's Fisher.
Oh, okay. Yeah, let's go ahead and move on to item number 2. I'm gonna keep trying to poke Bobby to get him in here, and then we'll start that item as soon as we get a quorum for it.
Okay. Well, let me know. Then at this time, we'll go ahead and move on to the second item on today's agenda. Let me get back to that. That is the single family home, BAR number 20-00034. And if the applicant can go ahead and introduce themselves for the record, we'll go ahead and get started on that item.
Hi, this is Kevin Klassman. I'm here with Ashley and Joe. This is for the single family residence at 2197 Tularosa Road. We received comments. We're in our revised preliminary review, and we received a few comments. Should I just start going through them, or did
Yes,
you?
please.
Okay, great. So the first comment was provide a more accurate representation of grading. We have included this on revised sheet C100 and C110. We're showing both this single family home and also the attached, not attached, but the barn that's located on the northeast corner of the property. So once again, that's C100 and C110.
Do you happen to know what page number that is?
Oh, yeah, on the actual packet. Yeah, let me check really quick. So that is page number 17, and that's for C100. And then 25 for C110.
Oh, little guy.
Are you guys seeing that all right on your end?
Yes.
Excuse me, which page is C100 again?
C100 is on page 17.
Okay.
Grading plan.
Mhm.
And then you said the other one was page 25?
Correct, page 25.
So it looks like you've reshaped the contours.
Mm-hmm. Correct. And the barn, which is C110, which is being on the shared screen at the moment, is a gently sloping site. And the one that is located on C100, which is page 17, is on the hillside ordinance where it has 16-foot max height. It's for the single family residence, a little bit steeper slope. And we're providing on both of them a swale that goes around the property on a more flat grading pad.
As I recall, your walking path on your house
Mm-hmm.
comes across your swale, doesn't it? To get to your front door?
It does. And we have a revised attachment where we show the entryway to the home that indicates the new strategy.
Hello, Umbar. This is Eric Gomez. I'm the planner for this project. You are right. The walking path would go over that swale, and the architect Kevin and I, we discussed this, and he provided some more details, and you can see those details attached to my memo. It's essentially a little plan set that shows the detail going from ground to floor to the entrance of the main residence.
Okay, I have to find that. Oh dear. When I try to open your memo, it crashes my computer. Shoot.
Eric, this is Kevin Small. Is this the first time we're seeing the barn? I don't recall that as part of the project before.
This is the first time you're seeing the bar. At the last MBAR hearing, we discussed whether or not to bring it with this project, and there seemed to be some consensus along the board that if this project is already happening and they had the resources to introduce the barn and propose it as part of this project, they should do that now, so they can get the review now as well. But it is the first time that you are seeing the barn.
Okay.
Hey, Leah, can we move up to C100? Just in the next page. So your walking path comes in from the upper right-hand corner. On C100.
C100, your pathing way actually enters almost dead center on that north wall. If you look at, if you want reference where the entryway is, if you go to the floor plan, which is on, one second, that is on page number 7, it shows where that entry door is located.
Oh, it shows the swale too.
Mhm.
So how are you planning on crossing that?
Yeah, so there, I think Eric has the most recent revisions as he brought that to our attention, and obviously we provided a drawing that indicates how the path of travel will be to the entryway.
Yeah, and this is Eric again. So once again, that attachment that is shown as an attachment to my memo rather than on the plans. They got submitted a little later than our submittal requirement date, and I wasn't sure that it was appropriate to, upload new plans closer to the hearing. So I instead put them as an attachment to my memo.
I
so
can't
that-
open the memo for some reason. It says the format's wrong or something. Can you bring it up on screen? Whatever it is.
I think, yeah, let's do that. You just have to click through a bunch of stuff to get that memo to open.
I've got too many things on my screens to find that.
It's after those cut sheets, Leah. That probably starts on page 5.
Oh, there we go. I couldn't figure out how to unmute myself. Sorry, guys. So after page 5?
Yeah, so page 5, starting on page 5.
Yeah, it is page 5.
Mhm.
Oh, goodness.
Oh,
Yeah, and then the next page shows a little bit closer as well, looking into the pathway down.
so is that where your swale splits? Are you going one way with the water on either side?
At the moment, that would almost act as the ridge of the swale, and if it hits on the left, it goes left. If it hits on the right, it goes right, and then there's a small walking path bridge on top of it that's just slightly elevated.
And does that section indicated as one on A 3.00 that
Correct.
indicates the bridge and the walkway above?
Mm-hmm, correct.
So image there on C on A101, you've got an image of a similar type of stairs.
Mm-hmm.
So is your intent to just let the grasses grow in between the treads of the steps?
Yeah, the intent is to have all natural landscapes, to let everything grow naturally back into its place, and to have either a large, whether it's a railroad tie down, or whether it's an actual poured in, either concrete or other form to actually create these hard edge treads, so you can have a clear walking path down.
Okay. I would just suggest that you use something called landscape timbers as opposed to railroad ties.
Mm-hmm.
Railroad ties have a lot of creosote and other nasty stuff attached to them.
Okay, noted.
Eric, did you include our comments on your memo?
Hi, yes, I did. To be honest with you, with this project, the last meeting got really into some technical details with the ventilation that you spoke a lot about ventilation. You spoke a lot about the mechanical equipment and some really, I guess, in-depth architectural details. So I try to capture it as best as possible.
Yeah, I see them now.
Yes.
Yeah, most of that stuff was just advisory, and that'll come up during the building permit process. Yeah.
Perfect. Okay. Yeah, I was a little nervous about trying to capture your thoughts there, but I tried to do that to the best of my ability.
Board, as most of the comments for the residents was in fact some of the things that they'll deal with during the building permit process. We looked at mostly just the grading, how they were going to get to the entry, how water was going to be moved around the building. So if you guys are satisfied with the revisions with the bridge, the steps, and the recontouring of the residential portion of this project, I would ask the applicant at this time to move to the barn.
One other
And-
thing,
Yes.
did you put any kind of mechanical on the roof or do anything physically at the outside of the building?
For the mechanical system, yeah. So we're including three mini split systems. Could be shown on the first floor plan, and then we're showing one condenser on the northeast side of the home. That's external.
On the ground? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can see that little square box in the northeast corner of the screen right here. It just says that's where the condenser would be located, and then there's mini split systems located in those central columns inside the home.
That's it.
And with that, why don't you go ahead and take us through the barn?
The barn?
Sure.
Yeah, of course. So it will be located. I'll just try to get you some page numbers so it's easier that way. Starting on page number 18 is that first page that gets us into the barn. And then from there on after, you have the barn floor plan, which includes the grading around adjacent. The next one is on page 19, which is A112 roof plan and the slope of the roof. And then we show below that page 20, 21, and 22, we show all four elevations of the barn and the max height limit. And we also show just indicating each of the slope of the roofs, the entryways, the doors and window location. Once again, there's no insulation, there's no plumbing or additional utilities running here. It's purely for equipment storage and let's see. And then there's grading on page 25, which you already saw, which is C110. And that really includes the documentation for the barn.
Now you say it's going to be for equipment storage. What types of equipment is going to be stored in the barn?
Sorry, not equipment. It's just going to be like a storage for shed. It's like pretty much an external shed, whether that's for just storage of storage, not of equipment, but storage in general, or if it's any, I guess, future use for animals or anything else.
Okay. I mean, typically the construction of the storage will depend on what you're going to store in that. So.
Mm-hmm.
And the plan, the final phase of this is an additional residence. Is that correct?
Yeah, it's yeah. Mm-hmm.
Am I seeing on the elevation of the barn, are those shutters that workable shutters that on the openings, the windows?
Correct. Yeah, it's just an opening with it's more you have a shutter or cover. It's not so much an actual finished window.
And the same thing up on your clear story up above?
Correct.
How do you get to those to open them?
At the moment, it's a visual. They'll probably stay closed, and it mainly would be the first floor that's occupied. It's more for, I guess, the aesthetic.
And what are you using the side doors for? The indoors are nice and big, but the side doors are kind of shorter. Is it just to open up the building?
Oh yeah, well, it's shorter because of the roof line, but in general, yeah, it's just to open it up, let natural air in, and just easy use from all four elevation.
Looks nice. What sort of fascia are you using? Looks big.
Yeah, you're saying the fascia for the roof, you're saying?
Well, I don't know what size is that. Is that a
Oh, like what's yeah,
like a
it
2
should-
by 12?
yeah, it's a 2 by 12.
Oh. And that also is on the end, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Where did the end go? What's the siding?
The siding, it's very similar to what is being proposed on the main home. It's a vertical wood cladding.
Are they individual boards?
Yeah, it would be applied. It might be more similar to like a tongue and groove where it's all applied together, but they are individual boards.
So you're not going to have a joint line at 8 or 10 feet or whatever? You can stagger them?
Yeah, yeah, correct. Mm-hmm.
What are you planning on doing, just out of curiosity, at the ground? Is it going to be elevated above the ground, like 6 or 8 or 10 inches?
Are you
The
saying
siding, the siding, how it
Oh,
looks
got
like
it. Yeah, it's gonna have to finish probably 8 inches above finished grade, just for for reasons of grade, or like waterproof, and not to get too much moisture.
So you're just going to do a curb around the
Yeah,
thing?
correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So I hope your the openings above your indoors are going to open, because that would be really cool.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I think it's a handsome little building.
Thank you.
Now, how are you going to direct the rain runoff on the side opposite the swale?
The side you said opposite of the swale, or the? So currently the natural flow of water is going northwest, as the top of the hill is further on the southeast. So we're proposing that there would be that swale that runs both on the east face and the south face going west. And that's currently being also shown in our drawings. Yeah, and you can kind
Yeah,
of
I'm
see.
looking at the roof plan now.
Oh, okay. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Does the board have any questions with regards to the barn itself?
How do you get to it from on your overall?
Mm-hmm.
Where do I find that?
Yeah, great question. So if you go up to page number 5, which is A010, that is the site plan. And you can see that off of Tularosa Road, there's our main entry or driveway comes off of Tularosa Road, and it's right towards so right when you enter the property, just adjacent to continuing up to the main residence, right to your left would be this barn location on site.
Are you going to have a roadway or anything on the opposite side of where the other big door is, or is it?
Not at the moment. I mean, that's not the intention. I think it's more just for, like, you enter it one way, and it's more to open up to all 4 ends for natural light and ventilation. is the main purpose and use at the moment.
Have you shown this to County Fire?
Ashley, do you know by any chance if this was included?
Ashley?
Yeah, hi, sorry. I was trying to find the unmute. Yeah, I did have the Sean Kaufman from the fire department come out, and I did show him where we were intending to put the barn, and he didn't have any comments to say about it. And then I recently too also submitted this plan set to him, and he did give us approval for it, and then I just have to do he said I just have to submit it to I think when I submit for the building plan, and they would do like one more final sign off. But yes, he is aware of where the location of the barn is.
Yeah, because it looks like what you've done is you've cut a roadway going to the barn, and I don't see an area for the fire department to turn around. And that's the reason why I asked. There may be a little bit more grading involved to give them, a turnaround just for this structure.
If it's just out of curiosity and question, if from the street is within 150 feet, so the main driveway to the home, is that enough to be considered the turnaround just because it's right at that entryway?
That would be a question for the fire department. My only concern is that your site plan itself shows a roadway going up to the main house and then a roadway going to the barn.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. But with the contours the way they are, I was just curious as whether or not they're going to be satisfied with being on Tularosa Road, fighting, and spraying water on the barn and then leaving that way.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll make a note to ask Sean about that.
Yeah, because I don't see an issue with the location of it. It's just that, how are they going to get in there and then get out?
Mm-hmm. Makes sense.
A little sighting question, sighting.
Mm-hmm.
Why didn't you orient it to the slope instead of it's about 45 degrees to the slope?
Got it. So you're saying why isn't it the east or the west end of the home facing a little bit more southwest and the east side facing a little bit more northeast?
Yeah, like twisted counterclockwise.
Yeah, no, I got you. I guess the honest answer is just the ease and perpendicular and to the actual driveway. I mean, it doesn't hurt that it wouldn't be, but at the same time, I think it could help with the grading, but also part of it is, I guess the short answer is there's no particular reason that it is or is not. It's just more out of preference that it's the orientation that it is.
Hey, this is Joe Ciaglia. I think you just might have that thing a little bit laid out a little bit off. Right now, there's some trees there. There's some oak trees, and we're basically making sure we stay away from those trees, but it is a little bit more perpendicular to the actual grade. I think just the way Kevin laid it on the base plan might be slightly off on this particular spot. I can probably resurvey that and double check, but you are right. It does turn a little bit more in the field because we did the field layout, and I think he's just got a little bit of it's just cocked a little bit wrong.
Sometimes it looks real nice to cock it a little bit, but in this instance, just explore the idea of turning it because you're going to want to have some flat area behind it to the right.
No, you're 100% right though. Because I did it in the field. Ashley and I went out there, and again, we wanted to make sure we're, a minimum of 30 feet from the trees that were there, and then it just orientates a little bit better. Especially because if you want to access the backside, and as Kevin was talking about equipment and stuff, equipment would be like a John Deere, shovels, rakes, tools, this kind of stuff to work on the property and get around. That's kind of what the barn's mainly for, is to keep all your stuff, you kind of treat it as like a larger shed area is kind of what it is. So there would be a way to access through the back, but not like a road, but that would be more like a path that you would just draw your little John Deere around the property on and enter from the other side as well, not a vehicle.
Seems like you always want a flat spot behind it.
Yep.
You're going to put stuff there and get around because you don't want to walk out your back door and kind of see a hill going up.
Yep.
Anyway, I'd suggest also if there's oak trees there, I think we need to see the oak trees where they are.
Mhm.
Yeah, they're on the plan, Kevin. There's a page that shows oak trees on the overlay. It gives you the footprint of the area we're allowed in buildable area that was already established. 4
Mhm.
pages out that shows the trees.
Yeah.
Kevin, there's a place that gives you the envelope, and on the property originally, that was an envelope area that was allowable. You can kind of see the outline of the lines there around it, at the area of development. I think it's actually on that page even, you can see the lines. Can you guys see the little lines around the space where it gives us the area that we're allowed to, that was determined?
We're still on page 5.
And see the areas of checkered dash lines, those are the lines that indicate on the,
That's his buffer.
yeah.
I think
You're in the wrong area.
if you guys want to move to page 3 with the aerial, with the Google Earth image, it shows
Yeah, there you go.
the buffer zone.
Yeah, so we can
for
see
the
that, so.
barn.
Yep.
So you're going to take out a little tree. Are you taking out the
I don't think
ones?
there's no trees we're taking out at all. So it sits in that space pretty clean. And it does parallel the road more like you're saying, slightly more.
It might be a bush or something.
Yeah,
Mhm.
but that's,
Yeah.
so that's the area though that we stayed. And we just kind of, what we did is we just made sure we kind of looked at each tree and spaced around each tree. Yeah, I don't think that's a tree there, that middle thing in the middle. That might be a pile of something, yeah.
Mhm.
But that's what we did, exactly. We stayed within that. And you can kind of see that footprint too on the other, over where the tree, I mean, the house layout is the same dashed lines.
Does the board have any other questions with regards to the barn itself? Are there any attendees that would like to speak to this project? Okay, then with no other additional comments, really, and no attendee comments, I don't see why we can't move this project forward. Kevin or Jim, do you agree with that?
Yes.
Then at this time, go ahead and get Eric back. And you guys are agendized for conceptual today on the residence, and this is the first time we've seen the barn. I'm confident that you guys can move on to the preliminary phase now. So, ask the fire department the questions that you need to ask, and go ahead and move forward for preliminary approval.
Sorry, Chair, I'm looking at the agenda right now, and their agenda is for preliminary approval.
Well, as this is the first time we've seen the barn, you guys.
Right, and last time we spoke, we said it would be okay for them to still come back for preliminary approval even with the new barn.
Mike?
Yes, sir.
This is Bobby. I don't
Hey, Bob.
see an issue. I don't see any issue with it being preliminary. There's no comments to study that I've heard so far this morning. You still have one more time at final, so I don't see any problem going preliminary if it's agendized that way.
Okay.
Hey, Bobby,
Hey, Jim.
your camera's turned on.
Is it? I don't know how to operate this thing. So how do you turn it off? If you want it off, I turn it off. I don't care.
Now just shoot it out the window, Bobby.
Stop video.
Hey.
There we go.
Then with that said, there's obviously some more work that we have to do with regards to siting the barn the way you want to. And then moving forward with the construction docs on this project. So at this time, I'll ask the board for if they would like to approve this preliminarily and have the applicant move on for final approval.
I think that would be fine.
If I can get a motion for that, that'd be
May I
great.
may I ask a question, board? Given that there's been so many questions about, the mechanical equipment and the structural, I guess, feasibility of this project, as part of this review, would it be okay for the applicant to submit to building for their first round of revisions before returning for final?
Yes, because some of the comments that were brought up previously will be looked at during the building permit process by building division. So that's not a problem.
Perfect, thank you.
The only caveat I have to preliminary is on the siding of the barn, rotating it, if we give preliminary, would still be okay. You're not locked in to where it is. I think it should be investigated on you guys' end. Would it work better tweaked a little bit, twisted?
Can you guys help me out here, man? This is Joe Ciaglia. I'm slightly confused right now. So what I'm understanding is you guys are approving the direction of the plan and that we can go ahead and submit to building department. You want to see some other revisions before you finalize the plan yourself?
There's a final review that we do.
Okay, but there's nothing besides possibly adjusting the barn that you're requesting. Is that correct?
That would be a major thing, is to twisting it, but I think that would be fine.
But what's the reason we can't finalize this right now? Is there something that you guys don't like?
You don't have enough plans done to do final. You need more stuff.
What do I need specifically?
All your details.
Pardon me?
Final approval will be based on the construction drawings that have been reviewed and approved by the building department.
Okay, so that's what I want to make sure then. So we're basically done as far as the plan review. We go to building. Building's going to basically look at all the construction documents, like obviously footings and drainage and everything else associated with it. And then basically you guys will just look at it one more time in case something changed during the construction document phase you don't like. Is that correct?
We'll look at the details.
Okay.
And review those.
And Mr. Ciaglia, just to clarify, this is Eric again. You are getting a step closer to finishing the review by BAR, which has to do with site design and structural design. For planning, there's still some documents that are owed to us, so you'd have to submit those first to make sure everything is fine there before you're able to move to building. I'm happy to speak to you about this offline, since BAR is, we're trying to keep the scope of this just to BAR scope, and talk to you about the rest of the planning process ahead before you move on to building, okay?
Yep, just wanted to be clear. I appreciate you guys' time.
Okay, then with those final comments, I'll ask for a motion to approve this preliminarily and have the applicant move on for final approval subsequent to building department review.
So moved.
Second.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Great, thank you very much, and congratulations. Go ahead and get with Eric and provide him the documents that he's required. Go ahead and submit for your building permit application.
Thank you so much, guys.
Then with that, we'll go ahead and wrap up this item. Now that Bobby has joined us, we'll move back to agenda item number 1, the Arctic Cold project. So David, if you want to.
Let me boot you off for just a minute, okay? I'll bring you back as a panelist when we're done with this item.
Okay, am I on?
Yes, you are.
Can you hear me? Okay, great. Okay. jump back there. Okay, David Swink with Urban Planning Concepts. We're here for the continuation of our Arctic Cold project. I also have Bill Langley and Clayton Dragoo, who are the project architects from Fisher Construction Group. We had met with the board back in April, and you provided comments for us. We did do a resubmittal to our incomplete letter that included the adjustments per the recommendations from this board. So I'd like to turn it over to our architect, Bill. Hopefully he's on. I know Clayton's on, that he can go through these items that you brought up. So Bill, you on?
I am. I finally figured out how to unmute. Thank you, Clayton, for pointing out to me how to do that. So anyway. So one of the comments was the fencing. You wanted some photos of what we actually proposed to install. On our drawing CLP-04, we did include photos of both the coated black chain link fence, which will be along the entire front of the property and pretty much everything visible from the street, and then the standard galvanized chain link fencing for everything, basically about 100 feet back from the road. So we did include that. The next comment was about the color was too bright. We had white insulated metal panel walls for our freezers and processing areas. We did go to a buff color. It's called sandstone with the manufacturer, but we did change to a buff color. I think the best place to see a rendering of the colors would be on sheet A101, which is where we have several renderings of the building, and it shows both the colors that we've chosen for the insulated metal panels, which is once again the process space and the cooler space or the freezer space, as well as the stucco representation of the stucco color for the office side of it as well. So we did take your recommendation and did change the colors. Next comment was the landscaping details be brought back after the roads, and of course we have had several back and forth on the road and what exactly is going to happen up there. But once again, we have updated our landscaping based on the recommendations for what's going to happen there in the road, and that is reflected in the current. Actually, it's reflected in all of our plans. All the changes that we had to make, which wasn't much, but changes we had to make out there on the roadway for driveway entrances and so on and so forth. That has all been reflected and all up to date in the current submittal that we have into you.
Yeah, I'd like to chime in terms of the improvements that we had worked out with Roads Division. When we last with the board, it wasn't still decided what the frontage exactly was going to be like. We had to do a warrant analysis on left turns and right turns, and we've worked all those through. And one of the concerns is that if we incorporated all those design changes, that would have resulted in additional right-of-way. It would have had to have been given to the county in widening. So we weren't quite sure where everything's going to be. Now, what we've worked out the agreement with the Roads Division is the warrants came back warranting the two right turns into the property, but not the left turns coming out. But what we did is worked on an alternate design that Roads Division approved that we're going to use. There's a required bike path that goes along here. It actually exists right now on Betaravia Road, but we're going to be utilizing the bike path in combination with our right turns, so no additional right-of-way will be required. So we're able to accomplish the right turns in there, plus we had enough area in there that we'd be able to put the left turns. So we worked out that agreement. So now knowing that, we were able to reflect the landscaping plans the plenaire did accordingly, and those are the plans you have in front of you.
David, are the landscape plans, do they jibe with this?
Yes.
Okay.
They do.
Well, those were the primary comments that we had for the from the NBAR. We were pretty encouraged after the meeting. It sounded like there was a general support, for the project and what we're doing on there. And also, I think everybody's aware that some of these things that we're doing in here, it's also reflecting consistency with the federal laws dealing with the, food processing.
So David,
So I think we have a good balance.
I can't find where your fence detail is. Where do I look for that?
It's on page 04 of the landscaping plans.
Landscaping.
Yeah. Yeah, so very last sheet. If you scroll through those there.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, CLP-04.
And the photographs are just two different colored fences?
Correct. Well, yeah, it indicates the photograph indicates a black vinyl coated fence, and then just your standard galvanized fencing.
Okay.
Yeah, Leah, that would be on drawing 4, yeah.
The only overall thing I wish could have been done was move it away from the street, but your property won't allow it.
Wow, my screen's completely locked up. I don't know what you're seeing, but.
Yeah, I'm seeing the same thing. For the next time you guys come around, normally if you flatten the plans before you send them over, we have a little bit less of a lag. So maybe you guys can try that the next time around.
Okay, I will keep that in mind. Thank you.
And then you should be able to see them now.
Yes.
Has the members of the board taken a look at the reduced set of plans prior to today's meeting?
No, I didn't get a chance to look at them because I saw them late.
As most of the comments had, a lot to do with specifically the landscaping and the color of the building. Having worked out the ads that Rhodes is going to do, and having seen the revised landscape plans with the 2 proposed colors of the fencing, I'd like to move back to the color of the building, as we had issues with its brightness. So if we can go back to our do set page 2 and take a look at some of the photo sims that include the fence and the building itself.
Yeah, so the two renderings there that are on the right hand side probably depict the color the best, especially the one in the upper right hand corner.
I mean, this will give us an opportunity to look at both the fencing and the fence.
Yeah, I'll have to be honest with you. I mean, my program struggles with trying to make the fencing black, but the building is a accurate representation of the colors.
So the main part of the building is the sandstone color. If I'm looking at your color chips.
Yes, sir.
And where do you see the beige?
Well, the sandstone is the manufacturer's name for the color, but it's really kind of a beige or a buff color material.
Okay, but there's driftwood, sandstone, and what is that, Surrey beige on your
Yeah.
color chips. Where do we find those colors on your building? Up above,
Okay.
there's a darker gray. It looks like on I call it as the second floor. your machinery up on top,
The exhaust tower.
Right.
that I don't see on your color chips.
Oh, that would be for the screen walls.
Right.
Let's see. Hang on just a second here. Let me go.
Because I
to my
appreciate the
drawing.
darker color up there.
Yeah, that is a silversmith. We and let's see, on that color chart, did we?
And then the offices
Yeah.
look like they're a darker color than the sandstone, but it's like a gray color, and on your
It's
chips,
called an
it's a beige color.
Correct. It's called an antique gray, and that is the stucco on the office.
Okay. So where do we see the driftwood color on your building? The white?
We don't have. We're currently not proposing driftwood on the building.
Oh,
So
okay.
the exactly, the sandstone would be the color for the buff color that you see on the bulk of the building,
Okay.
because most of the building is a freezer or cooler or processor. Then the light gray is the office area for the stucco, and that's called antique gray. And then our screen walls was what's called a silversmith, which I thought it was on this card, but I'm not seeing it on this card that's on the screen right now. And so that's your three main colors for the building.
Yeah, I think most of the comments were towards the brightness of the insulated panels.
The object is to make it darker so that you don't see it for miles and miles and miles. And it's a big building. So
Right.
it'd be good to show us the colors you're proposing in a high def format of some sort.
Okay, I thought that. Well, the rendering is fairly accurate as far as color. That was on the sheet. That you had up just a minute ago, Leah, that had the 6 renderings on the sheet. I could blow that up larger for you or what have you, and just have a dedicated rendering if you would like.
A rendering with the color chips as clear as they can be, so that we'd know which one might be the best.
Okay. Yeah, those 2 renderings on the right-hand side are accurate as best we can make it using the actual color chips.
It's much better than it was.
And we have used this color on several other buildings in the past. So, and it's definitely that rendering is pretty accurate as far as the actual color.
You could also photograph those buildings too.
I could.
That color, are you guys using a Kingspan like panel for the insulated panels?
Well, Kingspan is one of the manufacturers, but no, sir, we're proposing using their buff color as opposed to the white. That was what we had on there in the previous submittal, and we did change the color to more of more earth tone as opposed to the bright white panel.
No, I was asking, are you using a Kingspan like panel?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yes, that's correct. Kingspan is one of the manufacturers. There's 3 manufacturers, in the industry that make insulated metal panel. Well, more than 3, but there's 3 primary companies that we work with, Kingspan being one of them.
Yeah. And what I was getting at, the Kingspan like panels, they all have typically the same basic beige looking color panel available in their lineups, and they're used quite frequently and heavily throughout the valley in all these new coolers and remodeled coolers. We've done several of them in the past, and their beige color is always a nice, soft, easy, non-reflective color. So
yeah, you're exactly right. And whether it's Kingspan or one of the others, they've all kind of realized that sometimes buildings will have multiple manufacturers, or there's an addition or whatever, and their colors all pretty much match, even though they have different names. They're, cool white will match the other's cool white, and this buff color or beige color. Yeah, you're exactly right. They do.
That was the point I was trying to get across. It's that it's a fairly common color, and there's a lot of them around, and it's a nice, soft, easy to see color. It doesn't reflect a lot. You drive by it, and it's kind of a real neutral, soft pastel kind of thing that's easy on the eyes and easy on.
So Bobby, are you suggesting the beige instead of the sandstone?
It's that when I use the word beige, that name, to me is a color, but it's what name they use. That's why I asked if it was a Kingspan like panel, because and then to get the point across that all their colors may have a different name, but that rendering that he showed us that's beige to me in what I know panels or Kingspan like panels. That's beige to me.
Yeah, this color chart that's on the screen right now is pretty washed out. If you look at that sandstone looks like it's almost white, but it's really not. And that beige is a much darker. That Surrey beige that is on this color chart is much darker than what it appears on this right here. I believe correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe I did send an actual color sample, color chip there.
Yeah, you did, Bill. It was submitted.
The actual metal. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So in my opinion, the colors as they appeared on the rendering, whatever those names might be, was highly satisfactory in my opinion.
Okay.
And always, if there's a question, go a little darker than lighter.
Okay. Yep. And depending on how much texture you have in the panel, it's going to make it appear darker as well. So, I think that was Bobby that was speaking before. Bobby, as you're probably well aware of, there's multiple manufacturers, and there's also multiple textures available within these metal panels as well.
Right. Are you guys using what I call the light orange peel texture on your panels?
Yeah, for the most part, yes. But then the ribbing also will add additional, depending on how it's ribbed, it'll add additional. And the ribbing is minute. It's only like a 1/16 of an inch just so the panel doesn't oil can on you.
Right.
And that adds additional dark, shadow lines, which adds darkness to it as well.
Obviously, yeah. So, yeah, from the renderings that you did, the building to my eye looks very, very appealing and doesn't stand out, and it shouldn't reflect much light. It shouldn't be an eyesore anywhere.
Okay.
I got one question for you that doesn't have anything to do with the architectural review, but are you building the building so that you can, with enough collateral load to be able to add solar panels to the roof, or does it even make sense in a cooler?
No, we are. That is part of the Cal Green requirements, and we will be designing the roof structure to support future solar panels. You're right. In the past, it was not a good idea on freezers because you don't want to penetrate the roof membrane but solar panels have gotten to where they're almost peel and stick now, and not quite that, but they're to the point where they're not very invasive in that roof membrane.
Do they lay flat?
So in some cases, they do, yeah.
Yeah. We don't see any roof on this building, correct? That from ground level?
You will not, yeah.
Okay.
Are there any other comments by the board on the color of the building? I know we've talked quite a bit. We've talked at length about it.
I don't have any.
Hey, Leah, I'm sorry, I got kicked out of the meeting real quick. Can we go back to the sheet that showed the renderings real quick? Thank you. Real quickly, that one in the upper left-hand corner and the one below it with the views from 101 and Betaravia, the colors you've used in your rendering on the upper right-hand side, those are the same colors that you've used in those long view shots?
You know, I may not have updated that rendering, but I think so. I'll double check that. That does look like that may have been
the old one.
Yeah.
The only reason I ask is, go ahead. The only reason I ask is, the ground, the day the photo was taken, you know, that's pretty much going to be the view, and I think that building is going to disappear.
yeah, for the most part.
So does the board have any other comments on the project as presented with the revisions requested?
No, I don't.
I don't.
Let me get back. Let's get back to the agenda.
We didn't look at the landscape plan, but
Well, I think a lot of the concerns on the landscape plan were, you know, what were they going to do with the road and how that was going to affect, because I believe the first go around, it was a larger landscape buffer. And now that they've revised all the site plans according to their meeting with the roads and roads division, we have a pretty accurate depiction of the area of landscaping. Is there a representative from Plan Air on?
No, but you said, but you know, the landscaping buffer hasn't changed that much. We do have the two right turn lanes, but one other thing to keep in mind is the driveway on the west, the curb cut, so to speak, on the west, that moved about 120 to 150 feet to the west, which actually created more landscape buffer in front of the building than before. You know, they wanted more separations between our driveway and the driveway across the road, across Betaravia there. So in effect, we actually got a little more screening and a little more landscaping across Betaravia there.
Yeah, Anthony's supposed to be on right now. I'm not sure if he stayed on.
Well,
So David, the two trees I see on here are crepe myrtle and ironwood. Is that, and then on the, is that correct?
Yeah, can we bring that up? Yeah, whatever they put on there. Plenair's had experience doing these kind of projects before with these freezers. They were the architects on Lineage, so when that was done in the city of Santa Maria. So I think what they're doing is they're utilizing what they know is allowable, in proximity to these kind of facilities.
David, I think it's important to note, this is Bobby, important to note that these facilities are down the lines of heavy industrial. So they don't really like too much landscaping, especially stuff that would harbor other kinds of insects that infect the fields out here, because it's all this stuff is farming and relative to farming. They don't like to have
department.
They don't like a lot of that stuff.
Yeah, department. Yeah, we know the Department of Agriculture has restrictions on landscaping adjacent to food facilities. So we have to go. That's why you see, like along the building, you'll see it's just very low ground cover. Anything that would harbor any kind of either insects or rodents or disease vectors, we're not allowed to do. So it does limit the pallets that you can do adjacent to these properties.
Right. I think it's very important to present that, that ideal to the board too, because it's not like a commercial where you're building, physical structural things. This food handling stuff has a whole different take on life, and it's important that we don't look at them in the same light as we do a manufacturing. So, but it is heavy industrial, and it is highly governed nowadays. It's getting worse every day too with the food safety stuff. So,
or better.
Well, I know we have talked about it, just to let you know. Yeah, let you know because we're starting to commence environmental review on this project, and that's one thing that we've talked to the IR consultant, and I know there's going to be I'm assuming in the aesthetic section and everything there'll be a full discussion and disclosures about those limitations.
So David, I assume on Kevin's page 2, those are all acceptable plants that would be maybe around the building.
Correct. Yeah, he provided a palette of potential.
Okay.
Right. It's not going to be every one of those, but what he presented was just a palette of what's acceptable, and then when we come in, for our actual formal review as part of their next generation of plans, will be the actual proposed plans.
I was just looking for where the big trees were, where the little trees were. The big trees he uses look like this ironwood, and I'm not sure how big that tree is. But that's going to be
usually an ironwood will go about between 30 and 50 feet at full height, and those would be your perimeter trees.
Yeah,
that would be the farthest away, because you can't have those next to the building.
No, they're going to be along the street, and that's kind of what I was looking for. And then he's also got some crepe myrtles, I think, just sprinkled around. Okay.
Are there any other comments to the landscaping?
Nope.
Okay, then as these guys are agendized for conceptual review, I don't see any reason why they can't move forward with the project, both with us and the building department.
They have to go to
Commission.
Planning Commission next. Is that right?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, well then I would suggest that we get back with planning staff and, set up as to when you guys can come back for preliminary review and get that approval. So David, you don't have a planner assigned just yet?
They have a contract planner, Rincon Consultants. I think Steve is online. He's
Yes,
the person that's.
He is.
Yeah.
Hi, this is Steve Connor at Rincon Design. Sorry, Rincon's Consultants. Chair McGlinty and members. Sorry, I wasn't able to join the call earlier. I had some technical difficulties in finding the link to get on.
Me too.
I guess that's happening fairly common nowadays. We will work with the agent to schedule the next review. They are still moving through the application processing, and I think we're really getting closer to completion. I think one of the final approvals is needed from the Roads Department, Public Works, to flesh out the road. And according to Mr. Swink, that is in process. So we'll work with them to move the application towards completion, and then we'll work on scheduling the next steps. And as Mr. Swink mentioned, we are moving into the CEQA phase of the project.
Okay. Well, if Steve, if you can get together with Dave and go through all the hoops that you have to go through with roads, just contact the planning staff and get you guys agendized for the next step after that.
Okay, will do.
All right, then I think that wraps this item up. We'll go ahead and move on to the last item on today's agenda. That's the 7-Eleven project. BAR number 000. Waiting for my computer to catch up. 00096. 7-Eleven convenience store. The applicant can present to the board. We can go ahead and get started.
This is Ben Singer, the planner. I'm just letting you all know, I believe all of the applicants are attendees for the meeting right now. They had trouble either, I think they didn't get the email link, or maybe it went to their spam folder or something, but so they're all in the attendees group.
Okay, then we can move those over to. Great, Leah.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi. My name is Frank Cota. I'm the principal with Greenberg Farrell. We're the architects and engineers for the project. Nice to meet you or hear you all. I'm going to briefly go through an overall description of the project. If we could go to number 4, which is the site plan. Or can I do that? There we go. So the site is at the northeast corner of Constellation and Apollo. It's currently a convenience store with 2 fuel canopies, a total of 4 pumps. You can see the existing, it's lightly dashed in the background. The building is just between the 2 pumps there, the existing building. Our plan will be to demolish that building, leave the existing fuel canopies, I should say, rebrand them to our 7-Eleven brand, and then build a new building in the corner of the property as shown. We've met with traffic a couple times regarding ingress and egress of the project. We also I've been dealing with stormwater issues. We actually will be adding a bioswale behind the building as shown in that, I guess, the corner there. Our project consists of just under 3,000 square feet building, single story. We have a path of travel to both streets, and we have our trash enclosure up near Constellation. We worked with traffic for providing the access. So we didn't have any, originally we had some parking spaces there, but we agreed it's probably better to put the enclosure there to provide some non-conflict of parking spaces backing out potentially into oncoming and leaving traffic. And we will put in new fuel tanks as shown adjacent to that trash enclosure. The existing fuel tanks are also shown. You can see them in the light. It says underground tanks to be removed. And so it's pretty much generally a wholesale redo of the project, existing project, but we did want to keep the existing fuel canopies. If we could go then to our, let's see, I was going to go to the elevations next. I think that is, there's a color sheet, keep on going down. I want to say it's 10, maybe. Oh, 12, there it is, 12, please. Thank you. So our proposed design is a composition of stucco and metal panel. We plan to use two types of metal panel on this, a smooth metal panel that's depicted in the gray, which is on the right side and wraps around the top. And then we have a corrugated metal panel for our vertical elements that we've continued around the building so that this building is visible from all sides. So we thought it was important to articulate it on the other sides as well. Our fuel canopy rebranded, we will be covering the existing columns with a metal that would match the same gray to tie that to the building. And then of course we have the 7-Eleven branding on the actual fascia of the fuel canopy. All of our, if you go to number 10, there's a brief section. Of course, all our mechanical equipment will be screened. We have the parapets. The mass of the building is at a 20-foot height. Then we have the elements, some of the elements go into 22.6, and then the tallest one is at 24. Just again, this is just a section, building sections to give you an idea of slopes and screening and whatnot. And then lastly, if we could go to number 9, the floor plan right above. Just briefly, this will be our general layout. Doors will be in the middle, storefront on each side. The back room will be on the right corner, sales merchandise area in the middle, and of course our coolers, restrooms, and electrical in the back there. So, and there is a landscape plan, and we might as well take a look at that. I don't remember what number that was. Let me see if I have it here. Landscape plan is rating number 7, please. I guess I need to make these files smaller. So again, there's not a lot of room in a convenience store with fuel to have landscape, but we did take advantage of everything we could that was not needed for parking or vehicular circulation. And so we have an on-site tree. We're using the I think the can barely read it. Let me look up mine. Sorry. Yeah, so we're using, for on-site, we're using the redbud, and then there are some off-site tree wells that are actually empty, so we were gonna put in some elderberry into those. And then we have, the rest will be some shrubs and grasses, obviously, to deal with not only the ground cover, but also our bioswale in the rear. So that's generally a brief overview of our project. I was told that's what you guys are looking for at this initial presentation. So At that, I would just leave it to any questions, comments.
Is the sign going to be a separate item?
Yes, at the moment signage is, that would be a separate item, but we could bring it into this approval if you would like.
It's considerable. The landscaping that you propose seems to be at least a 200% increase to what's out there now.
Yeah, I would say that. I mean, obviously the current building is not all the way back towards the northerly property line, but you go out there, I mean, there's pavement and then there's a little strip, barely a strip, I guess.
Yeah, just a strip on that shared property line.
Right.
And you're going to utilize the, now, did you say you were going to utilize existing tanks, or are you going to put in new tanks?
We would put in a new fence. And I don't believe we have that detail in this package, obviously.
Did you include a materials and color board in the?
We do.
Submittal?
It's the last item. Yeah. So we have our stucco is we're trying to do this is a contemporary design. And so the stucco is a white stucco, and then there's our gray metal wall panels, and then I think below will be the vertical corrugated. So it's a fairly simple composition, but we were trying to have those metal panels really pop out from the white stucco building.
What happens to the metal panels as they go above the roof line? Do you do anything to the back of them, the sides of them? How far back do they go? Are they thick?
They're not very thick. I think if you want to look, I've got that detail. Probably if we go back to the elevations, yeah, you can see probably the best one is that the north and south elevation up at the upper right-hand corner.
Say on the northeast?
I was saying that because of the footprint being what we call the home.
Oh, you twisted it.
Okay. Yeah. So the best view of the side of those elements is probably in that north and south elevation.
So do you do the back of it in the same metal? So
I was gonna just take that corrugated metal panel and wrap the whole tower. That's correct.
Also, just as an observation, do you realize the front elevation is a 7 and 11?
I might be saying that, yeah.
was it intentional?
It was actually part of our design thinking. That's correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Except it's backwards.
Well, we didn't want to be so blatant.
You didn't want to be literal?
We didn't want to be literal.
Okay.
But we were thinking about, what could it be that might reflect the user, but not be so literal, to your point.
Mike, can we go over the landscape plan?
Where could I find that at, Kevin?
That is sheet 7. Okay. There, I think your notes need some review about, it says city a lot, it's actually the county, but let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The sixth note about plant material not listed may be used. I have kind of a problem with that, but I'd rather you give us a list that we know we're going to get. I've gone through your list. It's a lot of native stuffs, but I don't think the Sambucus is an appropriate street tree. There is a county approved list that you should reference there. Okay. And also look into make sure that none of these plants are invasive. You're in an area called the Burton Mesa Chaparral, where it's a very specific sort of environment, a lot of ocean influence and a lot of wind influence, but also the county and people like me who try and take an interest in it, try to prevent anything that's going to be invasive and spread out into that area. Okay.
Yep. Understood.
A lot of your stuff is very appropriate, but just look at it with that point in mind, that you're in a very special habitat area.
Okay. Yeah. Unfortunately, our landscape couldn't join today, but I know he had looked at the county approved list, but I will make sure he gets these comments.
Okay. I looked up the Sambucus just to make sure, and the Cal Poly Selecta-Tree website listed as being a high water use tree.
Oh, that's not good.
And yeah, so just check it and make sure.
Okay.
That's the best reference I know of, in the arboriculture community for information on trees and where they're appropriate. Also, is there any way you can break up the front elevation of that with some landscape at all? Do you need all that parking, or if you could consider that?
Yeah, we do need the parking, but I think we could do some. I think there is some opportunity to add I'm actually thinking, coincidentally, I've done I call it the home plate planter design, where it kind of fits in there, and I see some opportunity that we might be able to do that as well.
Okay. Yeah, just see if you can, study the site plan a little bit and see if you can come up with something to break up the facade, because it's just a long, barren stretch along there.
Sure. No, I actually think that's a good comment. It would help soften that facade.
Okay.
And as far as the front elevation, are we finished with the landscape, Kevin?
Yeah, that's pretty much all my comments.
Well, I know that it's kind of fun to take the 7 and 11 literally and put them in there, but I think you need to fiddle with the elevation a little bit. And I can't tell you what's bugging me, but maybe it's the two verticals being so vertical and the other thing being so massive. I don't know. Just
okay.
Maybe combine those things together on the left and I don't know, just fiddle with it.
Okay.
But I don't see any problem with the materials.
Okay.
I like
Yeah,
the 7 and 11 idea a lot.
Actually, while we're talking, I was on the fence, but actually, I think there is some fiddling with those vertical elements that we offset them at different heights, but when you know how you go, you do a design and then you don't see it for a while, and you look back like, maybe we need to work on that a little bit. So I would concur.
My best design time is 5 in the morning. I wake up and go, oh, I should have done it this way. And the day goes better. Honest to God.
It is true. Well, I think the brain works that way.
Yep. So sleep on it.
That's right.
Is there any, does the board have any other additional comments for this applicant at the time?
I do not.
Well, I think you're off to a good start with this project.
Great.
As I live probably a mile away from this. So it's nice to see some development here in the village.
Yeah, I think that particular building has been there for some time from the research. Yeah, that's what I found out.
Okay, well, I think, I don't see any reason, go ahead and sleep on the whole 7-Eleven thing and make some changes to that. I think you'll probably want to come back for an additional conceptual review based on those comments. But I don't see any reason why you can't move through that fairly quickly.
Okay. Yeah, I think on my list is the elevations, the landscape, probably get the fence in there.
Yeah, and I would suggest go ahead and bring in the components of the sign.
Okay, we will
Talk
do
to your
so.
planner.
Yeah.
Well, we appreciate your effort, sir.
Surely, and thank you for your guys' time.
With that being the last item on today's agenda, does staff have any additional comments for us at this time?
Not at this time.
Then I'll now ask for a motion to end today's meeting.
Yes, please. Yes, please.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you guys. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks, Enbar. Have a great weekend.
You too.
Yeah, bye-bye.